Hello, my name's Pastor Joe Cowell, and I pastor First Assembly of God in Cheney, Kansas, and this is today's video devotional. How many of you have ever felt discouraged or exhausted or felt like you were just filled with grief? If we look at our lives, I think many of us will find times where that is the case. And it's no different for people in the Bible. And it's recorded about Elijah that he had just come off a great victory up on top of the mountain where he cried out to God, and God answered him by fire and consumed the sacrifice. And after that, 450 prophets of Baal were put to death. It was a great victory for God, and it displayed God's power on top of the mountain. But just after that, we find in 1 Kings 19 what took place. And it says, now Ahab told Jezebel everything that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, may the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. And Elijah was afraid. He ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, and while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, he came to a bush, sat down under it, and he prayed that he might die. He says, I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. Then he laid down under the bush and fell asleep. How depressed, how grieved are you today? Have you ever tried to give up on God? Well, God will never give up on you. How does God not give up on us? Or how can we not give up on God in our relationship with Him? I believe the Bible tells us principles in how we can keep our relationship with God intact in the way it should be. The first thing we need to remember is we need to remember that we are called. God has called you. It's not a mistake that He has chosen you. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. God knows exactly where you are today, and He is mighty in everything that He wants to do within your life. He has called you. You have a purpose. He has a plan for you. Elijah forgot that. We need to remember also not just our calling, but we need to remember God's provision for us. Elijah forgot that God had provided all of these things before. He had just come off this great victory, but he was scared because of some letter he received or word he received from Jezebel. And he went off running, and he prayed to God that He would kill him. After all that Elijah had seen, he had forgotten God's provision. Don't forget God's provision in your life. Look around. God is my provider. The government doesn't provide me financial assistance. No one does. If I lose my job today, I know that God is still my provision. Why? Because God is my provider. And lastly, we need to remember who we are. Not to remember who we are in some cocky way, thinking we can do it ourselves, but knowing that we are God's called ones. And in James chapter 5, we see Elijah was a man just like us. Elijah had doubts. Elijah had sad times, just like everyone else who's ever lived on the face of this earth. No problem is new under the sun. Everyone has faced the same difficulties that we have. Elijah was a man just like us, but there was something great about Elijah. It says on in verse 17 of James chapter 5, it says he prayed earnestly that it would rain, or that it would not rain. And it did not rain on the face of the earth for 3.5 years. Again he prayed, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its crops. Elijah was a man just like us. And as a man, he cried out to God, and we can cry out to God too, and He will hear us, and great things will take place, and great things will happen. What do you need God to do in your life today? Do you need His strength? Do you need to remember that you've been called? Do you need His provision within your life? Call out to God, because Elijah was a man just like us, and great things happened when he prayed, and great things will happen when we, as children of God, remember who we are in Christ. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. Be strengthened today. Have a great day in the Lord. Be blessed.